Hey, Fun Rich Mamas, welcome to today's podcast episode. Man, I am excited. This is going to be a fun one. I have my dear friends Dave and Yvette Ulloa, who run the Warriors and Queens program and the Unshakeable Love Mastery program. These guys are absolutely amazing. I've known them we figured this out in the episode, about 20 years now. So we have a history together, but I'm telling you, they are going to give you some amazing insights into getting your marriage juicy again, right? Because if a marriage isn't juicy, that's not fun. But you're going to want to listen because they've got some actionable tips. They're even giving away a free gift. Kind of made me feel like Oprah. I know it came from them, not me, but still, check it out. Let's get started. I'm so excited to have you guys here. This is Dave and Yvette, like I was telling you about, Dave and Yvette Ulloa, that run the Warriors and Queens and the Unshakeable Love Mastery program. I mean, what a name. Think about being unshakable love and a master. I mean, it's not that, but you know. So I have actually known both of you, since maybe 2005, which sounds like yesterday, but I was really kind of doing the math the other day, and that's 18, almost 19 years. We've almost known each other 20 years.
College graduate. Almost.
Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is we have some history together, and I've been side by side with them for quite some time because I used to work with them and help them out with some of their events, and they are absolutely amazing people. What I love about them is who you see is who they are. There's nothing beyond the scenes, so they're fantastic. And what I would love today is you guys have this mastery of relationships, obviously, but how did you guys get to this point? Can you give a little bit of background to people that are listening? Like, how do you become a master of unshakable love, and what did you have to go through to get there?
Oh, thank you so much, Mitch. And first of all, I just want to say we're super honored to be here on your podcast and so proud of you for going for your dreams, making an impact and a difference in people's lives. This is so awesome. So it's an honor for us to be able to share.
Absolutely. And a little background on us, and you may or may not know this, but Dave was a police officer with the Los Angeles Police Department. I worked for the government, the city of Burbank, and we met through his sister who used to work for me, and she used to tell me about this brother she had that was amazing, that was a basketball player in Australia. And I was like, oh, I'm not interested in
of course,
that's not my jam. And she sent a picture of me to him in Australia. And to make a very long story short, he had grabbed that photo and put it in his wallet. And every time he would pay, he would see that photo. So when he came to the U.S., we met on his sister's birthday. And I guess Cupid hit, and we ended up getting married. And he ended up not going back to Australia. And we just had an amazing time. That was his start of the Los Angeles Police Department. And fast forward, life got tough with that kind of a career, the kinds of things that they see, the stress of my job. I was working 60-hour weeks. One day we found ourselves just working in this little hamster wheel, and we were like, is this all there was to life?
Yeah, and we loved each other. We just never learned anything about how a relationship dynamic was supposed to be. So we, for the first 4 years, things were amazing. And then things started to get a little bit rocky, and we didn't know what was going on. Here I was, a masculine man in almost every sense of the word. I played sports my whole life. I was a professional athlete. I was an LAPD officer. I shot guns. I knew how to fight. So outside, I was very masculine. But later on in life, and we'll kind of share maybe as we go through, I also had some traumatic experiences growing up that caused me to be different when it came to a relationship. I was very guarded. I was very protected. I didn't like making decisions because it's in a relationship context. And so after about 4 years of the honeymoon period, it almost was like something had shifted. And that shift, we didn't know what was happening, but I started getting really irritated in her communication. I started getting irritated, that turned to frustration, that turned to resignation, and I didn't know what was going on. Same thing on her end. She started to get really overwhelmed. And so all of a sudden, all these little bickering things started happening. This withholding love started happening. This blaming each other started happening. And then we went from married couple, lovers, to roommates and friends.
Yeah, right. That happens to so many people too, right?
Yeah. And we didn't want it that way, but it's just the way it turned out. And then we had another dynamic in 2005 where we decided to leave our careers and start a business. So now we became business partners as well, which threw on a whole nother level of challenges that we didn't see and realize what was happening. So the more and more it was like we started separating. We started little by little moving away from each other. And it came to the point in 24 years of marriage, there were 3 times, it's almost like every 10 years, something happens where we almost called it quits, where we almost
3 times.
out. And 2 of those times we actually separated, where I moved out of the house. And literally one of those times I was already calling divorce attorneys because the pain and the lack of solutions was not there. We didn't know where to go. We didn't know what was going on. And then we realized, you know what? We can do what most couples do and get separated and get divorced, lose half of our income to attorneys and separating. And then the challenge with that is then we'll take ourselves to another relationship, and the same thing is going to happen. So we came from the perspective of, what if there's things that we don't know on how we're reacting or responding to each other, that let's work on ourselves. And that's where we went, and literally we decided, let's invest in ourselves and learn from the best of the best in relationships, in communication and leadership. And we traveled all over the world seeking answers. And believe it or not, there was a lot of things that we learned that were like, nope, that ain't it. But it'll work. Not to do. But along the way, we learned some amazing things that we started applying into our lives. And then we started sharing it with our friends and family. And they started making all these major shifts. And that's how Warriors and Queens came to be, out of the pain of our relationship and us just deciding not to give up, having that covenant love through God. When we made that commitment, Warriors and Queens and Unshakable Love Mastery was born.
Nice. I didn't know that it was almost 3 times that you guys were on the rocks about to split up. That's crazy. So I just I have to point that out, because literally how many people feel like they're at the end of their rope right now, and it's just the first time. I mean, it sounds bad, but it shows you there's hope.
There is hope, Mitch. And also, once you have the tools, when you do encounter a death in the family, a moving situation, a rehabbing a house, which are some of the most stressful situations a couple can go through, and you got those skills, and it's like you go surfing now rather than bickering, fighting, arguing, and just exhausting yourself along the process. And so, first time we had nothing. Second time we had a little bit of skills. Then the third time it was like, boom, let's go to the race. We may not see what's coming at us, but we put on those big boxing gloves and we were ready to take on the challenges. And so coming out on the other side, we're like, we can't believe how happy we are. Like, we're always laughing. Like, in December, we almost lost all our stuff. The moving truck crashed. They had to helicopter the guys with jaws of life. The guy calls us. He's like, I don't know if we recovered anything, or you may have lost everything. And we're like, can we pray? And he's like, who are you guys? Like,
right.
For my guys, when you should be yelling at me right now. He was expecting to be yelling. I'm like, we just got these skills and tools that we help other people with, where life comes on and you're like, bring it. We are ready for you. It's a whole different way of looking at life.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember that. And that is really big, because I mean, you hear all of your stuff is gone. You're like, yeah, I feel bad for the guy that got airlifted, but I want my stuff, you know, and the fact that you're going to pay me back, right? Yeah, kumbaya, your friend, where's my stuff? Versus the way that you guys handled it was really beautiful and graceful. So bringing that, though, kind of bringing it full circle to now you guys are teaching people, you're helping people. What is the problem that most couples seem to come with to you? And is it usually the same thing from both of them?
Yeah, great question. So what we found, and I guess it's kind of like life, you attract who you are. And so the biggest problem, especially for couples that have been married for longer than 2 years or together for longer than 2 years, the biggest challenge that we find is inverted polarity. Mm-hmm. The inverted polarity, where most couples, they love each other, so it's not lack of love, it's just they've switched the polarity, where the man who showed up as masculine from the beginning of the relationship, asking the girl out, deciding on where to go on a date, where to go to eat, making decisions, and then the female energy, if you will, being more of the receiver and being more of the graceful and radiant, that dynamic in the relationship is what brought them together. So usually there's polarity in the beginning, but somewhere along the way, and usually what we found is because most people, they bring in their own traumas from the past, and their traumas from the past create these masks to protect themselves from being hurt, that along the way, which would happen for Yvette and I, we inverted our polarity where I became more of the feminine energy in the relationship. She became more of the masculine, where I didn't want to make any decisions anymore. I didn't want to be the leader in our family, because when I did a couple of times, she, because of her past trauma, would shut it down, or she would feel hurt or fear. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to love on her, protect her. But after a while, I basically just started to become resigned. Instead of making decisions and being the leader of our family, I would just go along with it because I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And from a guy's perspective, if we are not leading, we are dying inside. And so I didn't know why I was dying inside. I didn't know why I was irritated, frustrated. And then what happened, she at some point loves it in the beginning because she feels protected. She feels safe, that nobody's going to hurt her because she can make decisions. She's taking charge. But then at the same time, a part of her is like, where'd my man go? Where does that masculine presence go that is going to provide and protect me? But little did she know that she was at it. And then I was the same way. I'm like, why are you bossing me around? I don't need a mother. Like, well, stop mothering me. But then that inverted polarity created lack of intimacy, and that lack of intimacy started leading to more roommates and business partners than lovers.
And that's what you see is kind of the most common problem that's coming at you guys?
100%. And most of the times the woman is so overwhelmed because she's so overworked. She's running so many roles around the house, from being a mother to a sister to a daughter to a wife to cleaning the house to having her own career. And on her lists, you know, I used to have 3 different lists. Like my list was getting bigger and bigger. You know, one time we got into a fight and I broke my list. I was so angry. And that means that you're running in your masculine. And I wanted him to take care of some things, but he was like, I don't want to fail. So here, you do it better. You do it better. You do it better. I'm like, I'll take it on. Yeah, I'll take it on. Before you know it, I was so overwhelmed. And that happens almost 100% of the time, where the woman is coming. She's extremely overwhelmed. That means she's running on her masculine, which is great. That's what society promotes, and we should be good at that.
In career.
But where is that other side of us? The side that is feminine, that's playful, that's fun. We all disconnect from that side, and that side is our superpower. You don't have to give one up for the other, but don't let this side die, which is your strength, which is your God-given power. The power of the feminine can make anything happen. We're like the GPS of a family, but we don't have to do it all. And so that we see them flipped, and we see the man that's resentful, and we see the man that's not stepping up, that's just kind of following along. She's resenting him, but she doesn't want to give up being the boss. And so a lot of the times people come inverted, and then their intimacy is obviously off, like Dave said, and a lot of problems come from that.
So here's an interesting thing to note, Mitch, is usually It's the woman that realizes there's something not right here. There's something that's missing. There's something that we're not doing, because most men, they don't want to ask for help in a relationship. They don't want to reveal the issues and challenges that are happening behind closed doors. So it's usually the career woman that has learned how to succeed extremely well out in the work world, in the business, in the workforce, but then she's dying inside because she's not receiving the devotion from her man that she's dying for.
Right. And I'm actually going to skip back a little bit to something that you said, just because knowing that this used to be an issue for me, and I can imagine there's going to be some women out here when they heard you said, I wasn't the leader of the house anymore. And I know a long time ago, in my mind, if you're like, I don't need a leader. There's no leader here. We're equal. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean?
Yes, 100%. And that's where I think in today's world, there is this confusion that happens because one is not better than the other. But in a partnership, think of salsa dancing. If anybody's ever done salsa dancing or tango, in that dance, both partners are not leading. If both partners lead, it's a horrible experience. They're stepping on each other's toes. When it comes to a partnership, one person is leading and one person is receiving. Doesn't always have to be the same every single time. However, if you want to have polarity and passion in a relationship, it is a God-given desire in a man's heart to lead. If he is not leading, he's not going to have devotion for his woman. And so it starts to shut down his wanting to devote and give everything and provide to his women. Because if she's leading him, then he is the one that's receiving and he's not actually stepping into his power. Same thing with a woman. She shines when she is the receiver of her man's devotion. Again, want to make it clear. Not one is stronger than the other. Not one is better than the other. When it comes to an intimate relationship, that salsa dance of one person leading and one person receiving can amplify a passionate, intimate relationship, as opposed to what most people do is they're inverted or they're stepping on each other's toes. And then they start to blame each other and diminish each other, wondering why they're bickering, they're fighting, they're arguing, which eventually leads to separation and divorce.
Yeah. And then this is obviously a little controversial nowadays, and we stand our ground because we see the results. And here as a woman, there has been a very toxic boss babe culture. Unfortunately, we're just going to put it like it is. Like, who needs a man? Step all over the man. Where unfortunately, they are trying to squash masculinity as if it's a bad thing. It is an amazing thing to have a healthy masculine man. Now, there are a lot of unhealthy masculine men, but here, ladies, we can be the leader of our career. We can be the leader of our kids. You can be the leader of certain parts of the household. But when I come home, I don't want to be the leader of the home anymore. I want to be his queen. He makes the big decisions now. And again, you can co-create however you want. We still co-create. He still asks me for feedback and perspective. 100%. But I am a badass out in the workplace. I don't want to run the household anymore. And so we have decided he is the leader of our family. And again, you can do it however you want, but what we're seeing is those women that are not allowing their spouse to lead. They lack their devotion, they lack their commitment, and a lot of times they lack their everything because the man goes and numbs himself because he's not living his full purpose. There's addiction, there is porn, there's other ways that he is going to meet his needs and to get that appreciation that he's not getting from his woman. So we see a lot of people that where the woman wants to be the boss of everything, then she's just going to have a follower. She's not going to have a king.
And let me also just throw this out there, Mish. We know for a fact we're not for everybody. Why are we not for everybody? Because we, from our experience, know what works and what doesn't work. When there's too much confusion in relationships and they're not living who they are really intended to be, that chaos that happens, we see it over and over and over. That lack of devotion and that lack of receiving causes a lot of chaos in relationships. And that's when people end up, but here's the challenge. They don't even know that that's what's happening. So I like to ask ladies, do you want to be happy and loved or do you want to be right? Right? Same thing with
Same thing with men. It's usually where you hear it. It goes both ways.
100%. Same thing with the guys. So here's the challenge, Mitch. For the guys that are listening to this, your lack of stepping up and making decisions, obviously communicating and taking in your partner, your lack of stepping up is creating the chaos in your relationship. She is wanting you to step up and be the man that is the one that she married, not the little boy. If you want a mom, then that's cool. Understand there'll never be passion in your relationship. But if you want true passion in your relationship, then as a man, we got to step up, which means what? It takes energy to make a decision. The challenge with a lot of men that I talk to, they're fearful of making decisions. Why? Because their woman constantly diminishes them, tells them that they made the wrong decision, trumps their decision. And what that does to a man, it starts to dim their light and it diminishes their ability to want to even make a decision at home, as opposed to the relationships that truly thrive, or when the man devotes his inspired love to his woman and the woman helps him to feel like the hero in the relationship.
Yep. And I can attest to the work that you guys do. Like I said, Andrew and I've got a cat that's about to jump behind me, so enjoy the view. I don't know what's going to happen, but little buddy, having gone through the work with you guys, and we did the year process with you and had been studying before that as well, but just having gone through your program, especially together with other couples and hearing the stories, there were times where I grew up seeing it modeled in my house with a very go-getter mom. Okay. And it's just, my parents did the best that they did, that they could, and that they knew how, right? So she was very task driven. And so this was my model of the world. And I had this great man come in, and I ended up doing the same thing to him. And he kind of started pulling away from me, and I would get frustrated. And so I ruled the house and made all of the decisions, but it was stressful. It was tiring. And I realized that when I was able to give that up, and it wasn't about losing power, like you said, there's nothing powerless about it. It was more just, I allowed him to be that man and to step up, and, like stupid little things, like he'll do this. I'll be grabbing, we'll be on the way out, especially when you have kids, this, moms, you're grabbing your water bottles, their water bottles, your purse, their snacks, this, that, and we got all of this, right? And a lot of the times when Andrew's at work, that's just what I have to do. And so I get forgetful. And when I'm home, he'll slap my hands. He's like, let me carry that. Let me do that for you. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And it's not that I can't do it. It's that he wants to treat me like his queen. And it's also because I've given him that space, and I love his confidence. Like, for example, this podcast, I owe it to him, because there was a long time where I was very easily and happily like in the role with working with you guys, because we were on a mission together and I was in a supportive role, and it wasn't the role that I ultimately wanted to be in, as you guys know, but I was hesitant about leaving. And it wasn't until Andrew came to me and says, no, you are my wife. You are going to be happy. You are going to pursue your dreams. I believe in you. Whatever it takes, I'll figure it out if we have to. And, I'm like, this could be annoying for a little while. He's like, I don't care. I believe in you. You've got to do this. And it was just like, it was so inspiring to have this strong man and his belief and his decision, his firm decision. No, this is what we're doing. And it's not that I couldn't have eventually made the decision myself. It was like this beautiful permission and this beautiful like support. And I know that would have never happened had we not been in a place where he knows that I love him, that, I defer to him and in the ways that he's better at, and he defers to me in the ways that I'm better at. But we understand that each of us are different, and that's okay. And for example, with this podcast launch, I was working hardcore. Like, I'm on my laptop, I'm recording, and he's a quality time type of guy. And he just stepped back, and I just made sure, like there was a day he came home and I just knew it was getting a little wearing on him. And I just met him at the garage door, and I just said, you know what? I am amazed by you. I know that you haven't been getting all of the love and the attention that we normally do. And you've been giving me the space that I need. And I know you made that decision because it's going to further us along. And I can't even tell you what that means, And then we had a special moment. Not going to say what, but, but but that's, in part because of the work that we did with you guys. And it does make such a huge difference to be able to not have to be large and in charge. And it's a breath of relief sometimes. Like, I don't want to decide where we're going for dinner,
100%.
Yeah.
Huge.
So
That is huge, Mitch. And thank you for sharing that story, because that is what it's like to have a man's devotion, where he will protect you, love you, honor you, and he wants to help you rise up to the best of your career. That is a man's devotion. Why wouldn't you want that? That's his leadership, making sure that he has all the support and love and finances and resources, everything that you need to succeed in your career. That's what it's like to have a man's devotion. So I love to hear that.
And you said something so powerful, Mitch, that any couple can completely start the process of switching and bringing more polarity to the relationship. But one of the things, I didn't even realize what was happening when we started making the shifts. She started waiting at the door for me to open the door for her, rather than just her opening up her own door. She started setting up opportunities. And then I started realizing the more she was receiving me, the more I wanted to devote more to her. Not only to open up the doors, carry the groceries, do things for her, do silly little things, like even wash the dish, take the trash out, do things, buy her little gifts, thinking about her when I wasn't with her, sending her texts, doing little things when I started feeling like her hero, where before I wouldn't even think about those things because I was just diminished. But those little things can make a massive difference in a relationship.
I just need to pop a side note in, ladies. Dave and Andrew are married. So they're taken, they're off market. That being said, doesn't mean that this can't happen for you, which is why we're talking. I just started thinking about it. I'm like, man, these men are great. Women are going to be like, ooh, hey, no, they're taken. Taken.
Yeah. And ladies, you may not have a man that's great right now. We call them frogs for purposes of this work. You can help your frog turn into a king. And that's what we all do with this work. You create the space for him to be your hero, and you can lead parts of the household and things like that. But there are things that you also allowing him to lead will give you 10 times the fulfillment, happiness, joy. Like Dave said before, he was like, nah, she can do her own thing. She can open her own door. Now that we have this amazing, beautiful partnership, he's constantly thinking of what does she need? And I'm like, I cannot believe people tell me, oh, you have him wrapped around your little finger. I'm like, I don't do anything to get him to do anything. It's just I show up for him in a different way, and he's my hero. And he gives this level of devotion that I have never had in my life before.
And by the way, if you ever hear a lady say that you have him wrapped around your little finger, it's usually coming from the perspective of a lady that has not laid down the sword yet, and laying down the sword of emasculation, because a lot of the skills that we teach, just like most amazing things in life, it could be used for the good and it could be used for the bad. If you use these skills to manipulate or to control, that is not what this is about. So she has me wrapped around her little finger, not because she controls or manipulates, but because she receives my devotion.
Boom!
Mic drop, but don't. Aw, you guys.
I like that.
We didn't know it was going to be a makeout show. Hey, Andrew. Oh my gosh. So what would you say to someone that, actually, Yvette, this question is for you. Making that transition from being the boss babe, from being large and in charge and diminishing Dave and feeling like you were in protection mode. This is how you survived, was by taking control of everything. How did you make that transition? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was it a long time? Like, how did that appear for you? How did it happen?
That is when we were separated, and somebody mentioned this work, and I started following and trying to learn and figuring out of how to turn a frog, because he used to be a prince, and with different things that I've done, I ended up turning him into a frog in my marriage. He was a king out, in work and everything. And so how do I reverse the damage? And so that's why we have so many free lessons in our Facebook group that you can get started on watching the videos on how to unfrog your man. And step by step, I stopped emasculating. And the definition of emasculation is reducing somebody's ability to produce results. And ladies, we learned this. Every role model on TV, every role model that I've had, teachers, it's always been about diminishing everybody around them, unfortunately. It's about making them small. It's about rolling our eyes. It's about correcting, criticizing, all the different things that we do. And by the way, you do this to your children. And so you have all these little boys that are walking around emasculated. And so I stopped emasculating. I apologized to him. I apologized to my father, to my brothers. And this work has been life-changing. But it took us like 8 years to move through it and learn. We've packaged it into a weekend where you can come to this weekend and go through a full immersion and come out the other side. And we asked the ladies to decide to lay down the sword, that you were not going to emasculate anymore. Doesn't mean you can't protect yourself. Of course you can. But you are no longer going to hurt the men and women around you with this society accepted languaging, treating people bad. And so we have the same process for men. And so that's how it started. I stopped emasculating and I apologized, and he literally thought I was crazy. This is when we were separated. And he was like...
But she just didn't apologize. She apologized on behalf of all the women that have ever emasculated me. So can you do that?
Sure. We're a coalition. We're a coalition.
I did. I was like, I might as well. I feel so bad. Because I started to think of all the times that I just crushed his spirit. He would be on stage speaking to thousands of people, and maybe he said one number wrong in his speech. And when he came out of stage, instead of me saying, "Oh my God, you were amazing, I love you," I was like, "Oh, babe, that wasn't 3 million something, it was 2.9 million," and I would correct them. Like,
isn't that such a thing we feel we have to do?
That's what we call frog farming.
And
we
here's
start
what's crazy,
farming frogs.
is most people don't even know that they're doing it until you point it out.
Him in my world. Like,
I'm making you better.
But on the other side, Mitch, what do men do that diminish our women's light? Our women are these beautiful diamonds that God created. And diamonds are created by pressure, by heat, and time. And sometimes one of two things happen with men. They're way overbearing, controlling, and aggressive. And that's the unhealthy masculine presence, where they turn that coal into pulp. And our women are in fear. They don't shine. They don't radiate. They don't feel safe to be the receiver in that relationship. But the other side is if there's not enough pressure. And that's where I was. I grew up where I was the pleaser, and I wanted to be the nice guy. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. So being the pleaser, and I was just a yes man. I didn't want to make any decisions, and so there wasn't enough pressure for her, because in a dance there's got to be movement and there's got to be pressure, which means I'm not just going to be a doormat. And the challenge with the pleasers is people don't really know who they are. Are you just being nice just to be nice? Like, what do you really think? What do you really believe? And I realized that that's where I was. And so, men, we got to avoid objectifying our women. They're not just an object for us to look at, for us to gawk at. So when we objectify, we diminish our women. The other thing that we do is we don't make them feel safe. We don't make them feel safe, and we don't give them our presence. And when they don't feel safe, then they feel like they have to protect themselves. How do we not make them feel safe? We don't step up. We're addicted to things. We don't go for our goals and dreams. We sit on a couch. We're not present for our women. There's so many things that men do today. Some of them are lazy. They think that they have this welfare mentality, and they don't want to make decisions. And so when we don't make decisions, they feel safe, because now they feel like, man, did you think you made the wrong decision with being with me? Like, make a freaking decision. So when we come from that place, then we empower our women to truly be the diamonds that they are.
That's awesome. So knowing that I have a lot of moms on here watching, obviously we have a lot of people. It's been kind of crazy. The response is awesome. But if you're in a relationship and you're hearing all of the alarms in this conversation, you're like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And you've tried approaching your spouse before, your partner, and you're not getting anything, like, hey, let's try to work on this, and you feel like you're in it alone. What would you advise them to do? Like, what would the thing be that could start revitalizing their marriage in spite of the other person not participating at that time?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mitch. And that's where I think a lot of people that come to our Warriors and Queens retreat or are on our Facebook group, that they realize, like, oh my gosh, I thought I was coming here to fix my partner, but in reality, you got to work on you first.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we teach, whether you're a man or a woman, is number one, how you're showing up. Let's identify some of the ways that you're showing up that maybe we need to shift and treat the energy, or what you're saying, or the things in the behavior. Because once you take responsibility and stop blaming your partner first, that's where massive shifts can happen.
Yeah. And then another place where they can start, Mitch, is join our Facebook group, because we have guides. Go to guide 1, guide 2, guide 3, and start learning, because we have had couples where one person did not want to do anything with doing the work, but one person started watching the videos and they started to make shifts. And guess what? When you shift your languaging, they have no other option but to respond to the way you're talking to them. So if you're not bickering the old way, you're not going to have that passive aggressive response. You're going to have a different, more empowered response. And so we tell people, take control, like Dave said, of yourself and your own actions. And by watching the videos, you make shifts that little by little, the people in your life start to shift as well.
Very true. Yep. I can totally relate to that as well. So, okay, I want to keep going with this conversation, but we're getting a little long. So you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I want people to be able to find your information, because I know that you're going to have people flocking there because this is such good stuff. So where can people find you, and what are kind of the different things that you're offering?
Absolutely. Well, we have a gift for everybody here.
I just felt like you're Oprah.
You get one. So we created a mini e-course, and it's a simple course that you can take on some of the biggest mistakes that people make, that self-sabotage, and they don't even realize they're doing that in a relationship. So the 3 biggest mistakes and how to avoid them, and 3 gifts of how you're going to overcome and change your relationship. So we have that e-course. It's a gift for everybody that's on the podcast, and the website is warriorsandqueens.com/3, the number 3 steps. So warriorsandqueens.com/3 steps. You can download it.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Hey, and from there on, everything can shift in your relationships. And you're single, we help you avoid the mistakes you made with your last partner, so that you don't attract that same kind of partner again.
Nice. And then you're also on Facebook. You guys have a Facebook group, right?
We do have a Facebook group. It's Warriors and Queens. You can find us as a fan page and a private page. But if you just put in Warriors and Queens, you can find us on Facebook. And what we did, Mitch, because we come from, we're education junkies, if you will. We love going to seminars. So we now do seminars, and we do our Warriors and Queens retreat. And somebody asked the other day, what is your Unshakable Love Mastery? I keep hearing this thing. And so basically what we did at our Warriors and Queens retreat, it's an immersion program for 3 days where you go through an entire experience where it's not just learning content, but you also see live interventions and transformations in real time with people and couples that happen. And from that, we launched a mastermind called Unshakable Love Mastery, where basically we took 15 years of what it took us to transform our relationship with learning what works, what doesn't, and we put it into a mastermind. These are really for people that just want to collapse time frames, where it took us 15 years, we help people transform their relationship in 8 months. And so each one of those comes with elements. We do live Zooms with our community, and it's just people that want to play life and relationships at the highest level. There's nothing out there that's like it. We created it. People loved it. And basically, we've realized that it's also helping people to save years and years of marriage counseling, and also a whole bunch of money in avoiding divorce.
Well, you know that Andrew and I are raving fans. We had so much fun. Like I said, we went through the program, and those Zoom calls with your little tribe is just, it was so much fun because, man, you get deep. You get deep. Like no topic is off limits. And that was usually me.
Yeah.
So usually me. I know it's shocking, but literally though, it's conversations that you probably wouldn't have with your husband normally, that suddenly you're having in the safe space, that there's other guys watching and also participating. So everyone feels supported and safe to say what's really up. And it was just absolutely amazing. So I think you guys are onto something. You should keep up with it. Awesome. And then I'll make sure to link all of the places that they noted in the show notes that you guys can just go there, get that, make sure you get your free gift. Like I said, it's Oprah time. I wasn't expecting to do that so soon in my career.
I get a dream relationship and you get a dream relationship. And you get...
So much better than a car.
Now you should demand it that every future guest has to have a giveaway. So
I know you guys have set the standard a little high. But that's awesome. But I want to thank you guys for your time. Like I said, I know you're doing amazing work and you have literally a cult following because people are just, I know it's true that people are just, I know. I not in the bad way, in the good way that people are actually getting the value and the returns, so to speak, in their relationships. So they keep following you because it's actually making a difference in their life. And that's huge because there's so much out there where, it's like, oh, I tried that. It didn't really work. But this one, it's just simple, counterintuitive sometimes, but so effective when you just are like, oh, the light bulb moments, right? So
yeah, and I have to tell you, Mitch, this year at Warriors and Queens, we had many students that came back with their nieces, nephews, children, mothers, fathers, because they saw such an impact and such a change in their lives and their joy and their happiness that they were like, I want some of that. And so that's what we're talking about, the raving fans. And it's not us, it is God that gave us this gift through our biggest pain. And so we are just there to provide the bridge. People choose to cross it. And I think our community, they love to stay with the community because once you live this way, you don't want to be around negative people. You don't want to be around people who are diminishing and gossipy, because you're uplifting, you're talking about your dreams, about desires, about having great relationships. And so I think I just want to thank you because you've given us so much support through the years, and you have been there through our downs, you have been there through our ups, and we are starting to go through a huge up, and we are here to empower you, Mitch, and also believe in you. You are incredible, and you have such a gift. And so wear it well, my sister, and don't play small because God has a really, really big purpose for you.
Well, thank you. Did everybody hear that? No, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to all of my beautiful people out there that are listening or watching. I know that this was so packed with so much information. You're probably going to have to watch it again because you're going to be writing down notes. Don't forget to get your free gift. And if you would subscribe and leave a comment, I would love that. That helps more people find this and get this type of information from amazing people like that. So with that, I got a joke for you. You know me, I got to leave you with a joke. So, and this one's a good one, especially appropriate for you guys. So, why did Spider-Man's girlfriend break up with him?
Why?
Because he was too clingy.
If I had a mic, I would drop it.
You guys can use that one, okay? That one was for free.
That's awesome, Mitch. I love you keeping it silly, keeping it fun, and empowering moms with your entertaining style. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. All right, you guys. You guys have a great week, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.